Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Is it Aina?
Ina, yes.
Aina. Okay, how are you?
Good, how are you? I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. I was driving in the snow. It's a little
No, I could see.
scary outside. Sorry.
So before we get started, we put on the consultation form, we put it on the website, but we started recording consultations, training sessions, and Zoom sessions. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So you got a new puppy, and then you currently have a like older, like I think 8-year-old dog. Was that correct?
No, I only had this is my only dog.
Oh, it's your only dog.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I'm
she's
getting sorry.
she's a
I have
12-year-old puppy. Yeah.
we got a lot of Oh, you're the 4-week board and train. The other one's later
Yeah.
today. I'm looking
Yeah.
at the
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and your puppy is 4.5 months. Is that correct?
Yes, I think she's 13 weeks today actually. Yeah.
Okay. So she's 3 months and a week. And then
Yeah.
when would she come in for this board and train?
So when I spoke with Maria,
Hmm.
is that her name? Yeah, Maria. I just kind of discussed with her like what she thought in terms of when if there's a lot of puppies currently that you can't take them on or you need to wait or kind of just availability. And
Hmm.
she said you guys could start board and train almost at really at any time.
Hmm.
And she's been with me. It'll be 2 weeks this Friday, or no, it was 2 weeks this past Friday, so it'll be 3 weeks this Friday. Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. But I think she's adjusted pretty well. We've had a few potty accidents, which is pretty normal with her getting to know a new place. She really hates the snow, but her activity levels, it's pretty obvious like when she's really like awake and excited, and then when she's just like I'm gonna chill and play a little bit.
Sure.
But she's really 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 smart. Like this girl will know where our house is when we're like down the block, and she's like running to get back into our house because she's so
Sure.
cold.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's right here. Say hi, Azula.
I
Hi.
see. Yeah. He's like the fifth Doberman I've seen in the past couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny because for like almost 10 years, I never came across a Doberman until recently in
Mhm.
the past like 2 years.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
think they're getting
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
And what are you looking to achieve with the board and train?
I really want her to like it sounds so weird. I'm such a dog mom, but I want her to like learn and like enjoy herself in a way. I feel like I like know so much from YouTube and Googling things and like learning how to train her, which she knows her name and sit and stay. She's like, getting
Hmm.
really good at stay.
Hmm.
But even with the cold, I'm like trying to think of things to keep like enrichment and kind of get her mind stimulated. And I'm doing these things, but I still want her to be with other dogs in a controlled environment and be exposed to other things.
Hmm.
But also, like I picked a Doberman because they're really loyal and protective, and that's kind of what I. Not, I mean, I don't want her to come out looking like a huge guard dog and is like, I want her to just kind of grow in that. And yeah, I think the board and train. I just want her to like. I want her to learn as much. I feel like she'll learn more from you than she'll learn from me in a way too, and from other dogs as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but
No, I
yeah.
gotcha. And at what age were you planning on sending her?
I well, when I spoke with Maria, she was like, you could send her at any time.
Hmm.
So I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were about that. I'm kind of okay with sending her as soon as possible. I'm okay with sending her in a few weeks. I just didn't really know what kind of your expertise would be about that.
Sure. So for puppies under 6 months, um, it's generally pretty simple stuff. Okay, because the reason why I suggested to everyone or to Maria that you do a consultation is because you're
Mhm.
doing such a long board and train.
Yeah.
Okay, because you're planning on 4 weeks,
Mhm.
and because of that length of time, it gives you some options. Okay, so I want to give you your options and then let you know what the realistic expectations would be with each option.
Okay.
And then you pick and choose. But this way, you go into it knowing, like, okay, well, Jess said if I did this, this is what I would expect. Okay,
Yeah.
because for puppies under 6 months, for the most part, it's kind of like kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's usually crate training, potty training, getting them on a schedule, and we set the foundation using food. Okay, so
Yeah.
we've had a couple of puppy boarding trains, Micho and Maglio, who actually ended up doing it at the same time, coincidentally. So they like kind of bonded and like would play with each other all the time. But they were trained using only food and a gentle leader. Are you familiar with the gentle leader?
It's the is it a almost looks like a collar almost around their mouth? Is that
Correct.
what that is? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a muzzle. People tend to think of it like, oh, it's a muzzle. I'm like, no, it's a strap that goes around the mouth, and then there's a clip on the bottom that you clip your leash to. Okay, and it allows us to control the puppy because we have control over the head. People tend to put harnesses on their puppy, and I believe your puppy is on a harness currently. Is that correct?
Yes, she is. Yes.
Yeah. So the problem with harnesses is it's super common that people do this because I understand you don't want to put pressure on the dog's trachea. Um, but what happens with harnesses is that it could potentially create reactivity or aggression over time. Okay.
Okay.
So the way that works is you're walking your puppy. She's a friendly puppy, right? She sees a dog or another puppy. She's like, I want to go play. And you as an owner might think, no, because you might annoy that dog and we don't know that dog. So then you pull your dog back and it puts pressure on the chest. And dogs have
Okay.
this thing called opposition reflex, which means when they feel tension, they want to go against it. So when you pull your dog back, she's then pulling more forward and then she's getting agitated. Okay. So then over time, what ends up being a friendly puppy that wants to say hi to dogs becomes a frustrated dog, becomes an agitated dog, becomes an aggressive dog. Because every time they see another dog, you're putting negative tension on them. So they start to associate with the dogs. Okay.
Okay.
So I understand why people do it, but this is what we do in protection training. Okay.
Yeah.
In protection training, we have a dog on a harness. We pull them back. We have a person across from them that's agitating them to piss them off. And by pulling that back, creating more frustration because they can't get to that person. And we start to shape it towards aggression that we can control. And then we have a protection dog. Okay.
Okay.
So a lot of people do this with their puppies. Okay. So a lot of the times when I
Well,
see
it's good to know. I'm probably gonna take it off right now because you said that.
for now, because it's been such a short period of time, you know. But this is something when I get dogs that are reactive later in life and I ask people questions, more often than not, their dog was on a harness. Okay. So then we get them off of that equipment and we get them on proper equipment. Okay. So for puppies under 6 months, a lot of times we just do gentle leader. Okay. Which removes pressure on the chest, but still gives you control over your puppy. Now, the problem that you're going to have is with food-based only training, the ceiling for control and reliability is very low.
Okay.
Because realistically speaking, when you go outside, there are a lot of stimuli. You have other dogs, you have scents, you have people, if your dog loves people. There's squirrels, rabbits, right? All these things. So like, let's say you're at the dog park and she's playing with other dogs and you call her and you have a piece of cheese or what have you. If playing with the dogs is more rewarding, she's not going to respond because it's just a piece of cheese.
Right.
That makes sense. So that's where food starts to fall short. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to explain the different approaches that you can of training that you can choose from because your puppy is under 6 months. Okay.
Okay.
Your dog was or if puppy was over 6 months, I only train one way. Okay.
Okay.
Because I want the most reliability, but I leave that up to the owner. So there's food only, which is with the gentle leader, and when she's off leash and that leash is not on her gentle leader, you're going to have minimal control. Okay. And you may struggle with distractions outside in public. The next step would be prong collar, which is this collar here. Have you seen one of these before?
Yeah, actually, is her name Maddie on
Yeah.
Instagram? I think I've watched all of your Instagram videos, so I've seen a bunch about her explaining the prong collar. So yeah.
So the next step is prong collar. Okay. Now the reason why prong collar is more effective than gentle leader is because prong collar gives you a means of correction for your puppy. Okay. So if she did something incorrectly, or if like maybe she were to like jump at a dog, you can use the prong collar because it's meant to mimic a dog bite as a means of correction to tell her don't do that again. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the problem with prong collar is again, if you take the leash off, you're not going to have control. Okay.
Okay.
You're going to be in the what I would call a 40 to 60% success rate range. Okay. And that all just depends on how consistent you are with reinforcing the training. Okay. So it's a correctional tool but it also gives you control over your dog. The other problem with prong collar is sometimes because she's going to get bigger, right? How big are we expecting her to get?
Her parents are pretty big. I mean, she'll probably be anywhere, I think, over like, I think it's like over 75 pounds. She'll be pretty big.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other
Her
problem
parents are really fully grown. They were huge. So,
with, yeah.
yeah.
So
So she's not going to be a lap dog anymore. She thinks she is, but she can't be. So,
she's going to grow it someday, correct? So what happens is once she matures and she's her full size, is if you try to correct her with the prong collar, it may not affect her because
you're
now,
right.
so I was raised old school. I was spanked.
Hmm.
In a certain age, like when I became a teenager or whatever, spanking was no longer effective because I didn't care
Hmm.
about it being hurt, right?
Hmm.
So then my mom had to find other means of consequence or correction in order to deter me from certain
Hmm.
things. So it's the same thing for dogs. You know, it could
Okay.
be effective when she's a puppy, but then when she's a year old, you might find like, oh crap, like, now um, the prong collar doesn't work and I'm like yanking her really hard and she's just
Right.
and I
Right.
actually have um, two Dobermans that started training with me already on prong collar, and that's the problem their owners had.
Mm.
Okay, and one of them, he's probably like an 80 to 90 pound Doberman, and the other one, I believe she's like a 60 pound Dobie. Okay, and they both outgrew the prong collar. Okay,
Mm.
so the last one would be what's called remote collar or e-collar. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit. I think I've just read controversy on it, but honestly, I don't really know, like, because I'm a new dog mom, so I think I've read too much, but not really like had conversation about it enough,
Yeah.
you know.
So e-collar
Okay.
is so all our puppies and dogs over 6 months are trained on
Mhm.
e-collar. Okay, there's no exceptions. The
Mhm.
reason is after 6 months, dogs treat their pups like adults. Okay,
Mhm.
and I can train a puppy at that age to an adult level. Okay,
Mhm.
meaning I can have a 6 month old. I can technically have a 2 month old puppy also be off leash trained.
Mhm.
It's just that people typically aren't comfortable with using remote on a puppy that young. But
Mhm.
typically by 6 months, the puppy's driven them crazy enough that they're like, you know what, Jesse, let's do whatever's going to work, right? So then we jump to e-collar. So e-collar, um, if you've read a lot of literature, like is more commonly known as a shock collar, right?
Mhm.
And that's a terminology from one of two fronts. One is when they first came up with that technology, e-collars only had 5 levels. Okay.
Right.
Now they have 127.
Okay.
So 5 and 127 are the same
Mhm.
output, but I have
Mhm.
122 divisions. Okay.
Okay.
So before, 2, your dog may ignore it. 3, your dog is yelping. Okay. There was no in between. And now I
Mhm.
can go 20, 30, 24, 26, 25. I can really fine tune it to the dog or puppy. Okay. The other
Okay.
thing is, in the positive only realm of dog training, they don't, or say they don't use aversives. So they talk down to like prong collars and the e-collars, and they'll say things like shock and hurt and pain and all that stuff.
Mhm.
They're trying to
Mhm.
deter people from using these tools. It's not electricity. It's not electrocution. You're not electrocuting your puppy. It's not like sticking your finger in an outlet or like a taser. It's a
Right.
centralized current that only moves the muscle that it's making contact with. Okay.
Mhm.
They use the technology on people. They use it at chiropractic offices, and they use it at
Mhm.
physical therapist offices. If you go to Walgreens, you can literally go in the back section and see what's called a TENS unit, TENS. That's an e-collar. Okay, so
Okay.
they put it on your back, and it moves the muscles to either ease back
Mhm.
pain, break up scar tissue, or to help build muscle strength.
Okay.
Okay, so if you were to go to a chiropractor or a physical therapist and they were to use this technology on you, they would put it on. There's like these little nodes that they put on the muscle, and they say, "Tell us when it becomes too much." And then they would raise levels, and you would say, "Hey, that's too much." So they would lower it, and then they'll say, "How do you feel about that?" And you'd say, "Oh, that feels
Mhm.
pretty good." And then you go, "Okay, we're gonna let it do its work." It's very much the same with dog training. Okay, we
Okay.
start low, we work our way up. The
Mhm.
puppy or the dog tells us that's too much, that's too little. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm at 15 and she's not listening, and I'm at 35 and she's yelping. I know
Mhm.
I got to be somewhere in the middle.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
But we always
Yeah.
start low and then we work our way up until we find that what we call operating level. Okay.
Okay.
Now that may change for her, one, because if you did start her on that, she's a young pup, she's going to grow. But like, let's say you started her now and her number was 15, right? And she's perfect on
Mhm.
15. But then at
Mhm.
a year, she's a fully grown 75-pound Dobie. 15 may
Mhm.
no longer be effective because she's bigger. All
Yeah.
that means is your number is going to go up.
Yeah.
Okay. So like you would never lose the obedience
Right.
because you don't have a means of reinforcing it. You just
Mhm.
have to go higher on your number because she's matured now. Okay.
Okay.
The reason why I give you that as an option is because of the length of time that you're doing. Okay.
Right.
Because it gives us, so we wouldn't just jump into remote collar training with your puppy. We would
Mhm.
introduce her to pressure first for a week and then start to layer in the collar. Okay.
Yeah.
So pressure, like prong collar, if you pull up, creates that biting pressure.
Mhm.
We start that to introduce the puppy, to kind of toughen
Mhm.
them up and teach them communication because e-collar is very unnatural. Okay. So once we get them over that hump, then we go, okay, now we're going to mature you to this one. But we need a
Okay.
longer period of time to get them comfortable with it. So if you only did
Okay.
2 weeks, I wouldn't even present that to you as an option
Okay.
because I go 2 weeks isn't enough. But because you're thinking of doing 4, I go, okay, well, I'm going to give you your options. I don't care
Mhm.
what you do, but now
Mhm.
you know your limitations, right?
Okay.
So with the e-collar, essentially, she would come in, she would do 4 weeks and be trained for her life. Okay.
Okay.
The only thing would be, of course, as she matures, you'd have to apply that collar correctly, meaning if she needs more power or more output to get her to be obedient, you're going to have to raise that number. Okay. But if you stay stuck at her puppy number, she's probably not going to be obedient. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Question so far.
Um, I don't know if I have any as of right now. Um, I'm sorry. She's making such a weird face. Um, I'm trying to think if I have anything specific. Oh, I know there's follow-up appointments.
Mhm.
Am I allowed? I'm like, I think one of my biggest fears is like losing a connection with my dog or feeling like I'm gonna go home and not reinforce exactly what was done at training because I'm really big on schedules. I like schedules. I like concise things that make sense and like logical things. And I know that's exactly what you guys are doing. So it's consistent every time. And
Mhm.
if I want to reciprocate that, I feel like I need to see it in person, like be, or at least like be a part of something. So I at least
Correct.
can kind of know what's going on or that. And like really just, I don't want to do this. And then I'm terrible at reinforcing it. And then I kind of just like, it all blows up in my face. I want it to be concise. So,
Correct. So when it comes to, so there's pros and cons to a board and train. Okay.
okay.
The pro is we can get a lot of stuff done within the short time frame. So think of
Okay.
a 4-week border train as the equivalent of a 12-week, one class a week program, right?
Okay.
So what takes us a month would take you 3 months, and that's if you're doing consistent everyday work.
Right.
Okay?
You're right.
So the con of a board and train is that you don't see the work technically.
Yeah.
Okay, you just show up to a product. And my
Yeah.
whole thing is always educating people to the point where when they leave, we don't hear back from them because that means we transferred everything and it's stuck.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Um, the the positive thing is now with COVID and everything, what we've begun doing is every week we film a video of your puppy. Okay,
Okay.
as one this is one part of it. So let's say for the first week, every time you teach her something new, sit, stay, down, come, place, heel. Okay, 6 basic commands. You're gonna get what we call the explanatory sessions. Okay,
Okay.
and it's like when she gets first introduced to like the prong collar or the gentle lead or whatever we're going to use. Okay, so you see her raw getting trained. Okay, because the first session is always the most stressful for the dog or puppy. Okay,
Mhm.
and then once we get those videos together, I edit them together and I send it to you and I go, here you go, you can watch this and educate yourself. Okay,
Okay.
you can also come in once a week to do a training session to follow along your dog's progress. Okay,
Yeah.
that comes with the Broad and Train
Yeah.
program as well. So you get
Yeah.
video so that you would watch that first, and
Yeah.
ideally you would then schedule your in-person session. Okay,
Okay.
'cause you're already coming in with knowledge, and then you
Yeah.
can say like, "Hey Jesse, I didn't really understand this topic that you said," and I go, "No
Yeah.
problem. Let me cover it with you. Let me explain it better." Okay,
Hmm.
and then on the second week we do another video, like a comprehensive one, where you see where
Hmm.
she went from week 1 to the end of week 2.
Right.
Send that to you, right? And then week
Yeah.
3 and week 4. So you're getting a video each week to see her continued progress. And then if
Hmm.
you'd like, you could come in each week as well so that you're following along with her. Okay.
Okay. I have a question about that. So if I know I have 5 follow-ups, so if me coming in every week, does that count as my follow-up, or do I have follow-ups
Correct.
after that?
Those are your follow-ups. Okay. So like
Okay.
the lessons that you do, those 5
Hmm.
are the ones that include the ones here. Okay.
Okay.
So you have a couple of options. We've had a number of board and trains come in and they do the board and train first and they watch their videos, and then when they pick up their
Hmm.
dog, then they start their follow-ups, so they technically get a more prolonged um,
Okay.
okay, so that's so there's no like rule, cut and dry rule of like you have to do this, because we
Hmm.
have the videos now.
Okay.
Before, because we did videos because of COVID, we started doing that. Pre-COVID, it was mandatory. You have to come in each week to work with your dog unless the person was out of town. Okay,
Okay.
because then like if they did a 4 week board and train, they're coming into like 4 weeks of like information as opposed to learning
Right.
with their dog as they go along. Okay,
Okay.
so you could do one each week. You could have her be here for 2 weeks and then start coming for the third and fourth week,
Okay.
and then that leaves you
Yeah.
with 2 after the fact. Because
Okay.
you're still going to have that supplemental video or videos as a source of education, and they're long, like they're anywhere between an hour to an hour and a half, and then the ones later on are more like around 30 minutes,
Okay.
um, because she's already
Okay.
learned everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And so, yeah. And what are the some of the things you guys go over? I obviously I've read them online, but
Yeah,
I want to
6
hear from you.
things that place and heal.
Okay.
Okay, so there's 6 obedience commands that are meant to be functional.
Mhm.
They're meant to allow
Okay.
you to do stuff with your dog. Okay,
Okay.
now the one command that will require you to do follow-up work with, even with the 4 week board and train, is recall,
Hmm. Okay.
which is come when called, because we can work as much as we can here, but it's not going to be the same as like at the dog park, or like if she's
Right.
chasing a squirrel, because we don't have like squirrels here that work for us
Hmm.
to act as distraction and stuff, right? So we can only work around so many things here. But everything else, for the most part, the other 5 commands are easy to
Hmm.
do in practice. It's just the recall that
Hmm.
requires a little bit more work, because then we have to transfer what she's learned to you. Okay. So
Okay.
that transference part is where things get um, tricky. Okay. Because with
Okay.
food only, you need to do a lot more follow up work with that. Okay. If you do gently,
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of work to do afterwards. If you do prong collar, again, you're going to be in the 40 to 60% range. But the problem you're going to have is, one, you're going to need to know more technical skill with the prong collar, how to use your leash and all that stuff. And then two, when you take the leash off, you're not going to have full control. With the
Hmm.
remote collar, it's the least amount of work. It's very
Hmm.
intuitive. It's very logical. Transference is very high, and it's really the only command you need to work on extensively afterwards, or at least a bit more, would
Hmm.
be then the recall. Okay,
Okay.
because everything's
Um.
conditioned to a pressable button. Go ahead.
Okay. And so I have like 2 more questions. So I know that my dad is really interested in getting. We have like a small creek in our backyard, and we have a pretty open backyard, but like I'm cool with her jumping in water, but I'm not cool with her jumping in that kind of water because it's been like dirty and I don't even know what's inside that creek. And so we were thinking about doing like an electric fence. Would that be a similar like
Yes, it's the same
science?
technology.
Would it apply well if we did that then?
So with the electric fence, it's the same technology. However,
Hmm.
it operates a little bit differently. Okay.
Okay.
So with an electronic fence, it's probably only going to have 5 levels.
Okay.
because it's meant to keep your dog within the the property. Okay.
Okay.
So then, so because we don't want the dog to escape, there's only going to
Mhm.
be one, two, three, four, or five. Okay. So the
Okay.
correction is going to be harsher because again, we don't want to lose the dog. Okay.
Okay.
The technology is the same.
Mhm.
The way it's going to operate is going to be a little bit different because in that
Okay.
case, we don't care about how the dog feels. Okay. We care that the dog doesn't run away.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I so actually one of my good friends, she has a German Shepherd, and they did an electric fence, and then after a few months, like their dog like knew where they couldn't go, and they just stopped using the collar, and he just wouldn't cross it ever.
Mhm.
So is that similar notion? What happens in that case?
So it really depends on the dog. Okay.
Okay.
Because, like, let's say there it's a German Shepherd that really doesn't care and isn't territorial. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're Dobie, because the dog you have, the puppy you have today is not going to be the dog you have in a year to 2 years from now. Okay.
Right.
Just like with humans, like I'm not the same person I was when I was 13. I'm not the same person I was
Right.
even a year ago. Right. We're continuously maturing and changing as we have life experiences. Same thing for dogs. So typically for power breeds, including Dobermans, 6 months in a year is when we're expecting to see pivotal personality changes. Okay. So
Okay.
like if we see dog reactivity, it's typically around 6 months to a year. If we see aggressive responses, if it's not present at 2 months, right? Like it's pretty evident. Like I have somebody who just emailed about a aggressive 3.5-month-old puppy that's been
Mhm.
biting and legitimately biting. That's genetics. Okay.
Mhm.
So as she's maturing, let's say you're walking her one day and an off-leash dog comes up and attacks her. Okay.
Mhm.
The next day, she could be dog aggressive because
Yeah.
of that experience. Okay.
Okay.
So then let's say that were to happen. She's in the yard with the electronic fence collar and she
Mhm.
sees a dog. Well, now she's going to be defensive, right?
Mhm.
And that may never go away because of that negative experience. So then
Okay.
she may need the electronic fence collar forever because of that problem.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. That
So,
makes sense.
and some dogs will learn the electronic fence and actually just blaze right through. They just run right through it and
Okay.
charge and break through it. I've seen it. I've heard of that happening. I don't do
Mhm.
electronic fence training, but I've had clients who've used it and their dogs like escape it. Okay, because they're physically too
Wow.
tough for the for the electronic fence. So there's
Okay.
a lot of variables there.
Okay.
And I think the question you're asking is, essentially, at what point does the e-collar go away,
Mhm.
right? In my
Yeah.
book, when you need it, it doesn't.
Okay.
Okay. So what that means when she's going to be off leash anywhere, if you're going to be walking her, if you're going to take her to a friend's house, if you're going to go to a restaurant with her, you'd have any one of your training tools on, whether it's gentle leader, prong collar, or e-collar. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, because dogs are opportunistic animals. We all are. Okay. So you drive, of course, right? Do you go on the expressway?
Yes.
Do you go the speed limit?
No, I don't.
If you see a
I have to
squad,
be honest, I don't. I what?
if you see a squad car, what happens?
I slow down.
Slow down. That's opportunistic behavior. Okay.
Mhm.
So the speed limit is 70 or whatever. But because there's no squad car and you're trying to get somewhere faster, you press that boundary, right? But then when you see authorities, you slow down so you avoid that ticket, that consequence. And then when you pass them up, I'm assuming you probably speed back up again, right?
Mhm.
So imagine the e-collar is a cop on a collar, right? When it's present, she's going to know, okay, the cop's around. I have to be better behaved. I have to listen, blah, 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 right?
Mhm.
And then when it's not present, she's going to be a brat. She's going to maybe push the boundaries a bit. And again, it all depends on the dog's personality type. If
Mhm.
she ends up developing a very pushy personality type, you're definitely going to need it because you have a dog that's more resistant to commands or or authority.
Mhm.
Just like with some kids, there's some kids that are compliant,
Yeah.
and there's some kids that are like, no, I'm gonna be a brat about it, right?
Okay.
So it's not that you're always having to use it and press the button all the time. You know, we've done our part, you've done your part in following through and making sure that we transfer everything to you and you're reinforcing
Mhm.
everything. That she goes, okay, like mom's consistent. If I don't comply, mom reinforces with the collar and she raises it if needed and stuff. So I'm gonna be
Mhm.
more compliant when mom is around and she has this tool. Okay.
Okay.
And again, it's only when you need it. If she's a great dog inside the house and when people come over and all that stuff, and when you go to friends' houses, you don't need it. But if she's going
Okay.
to be off leash anywhere, or if she's going to be on the leash walking and stuff, because you can't account for life, maybe an off leash dog charges you. Maybe
Mhm.
someone blows up a firework and your dog runs away scared. Like in an emergency situation, you would still have control with that tool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, and my whole thing is I don't want to not have control because
Mhm.
I've been in those moments where someone let up a firework because my pit is scared of fireworks. She hates them and
Mhm.
she wants to run off.
Mhm.
And it happened to me twice in Logan Square where I was walking my dogs and someone lit up a firework and scared my dogs. And
Mhm.
then, but because they were on a leash, wasn't a problem. But I didn't have the collar on because they weren't going to be off leash. But then my pit was in flight mode, and she was
Mhm.
anxious because she was scared.
Yeah.
Like, but had I had my
Yeah.
e-collar, I could have calmed her back down and had control again. So
Okay. That's good. Okay. And so I think one of my last questions is just like, so we're working on crate training right now, and for the most part, I feel like she enjoys her crate, but like she always wants to relax, like in her crate vicinity. She doesn't want to like her crate. Like she'll go in her crate and like lay and play with her chew toy, then come out and lay on the ground and play in her chew toy, and then like she's not like a consistent like staying there. I don't know if I'm asking for too much for her and that,
mhm,
but like where I've been training her to like go to her crate like and like using crate as like a word to go. She's definitely more very food oriented,
yeah,
but I can tell when I fake it, she'll do it, and then when I fake it another time, she'll be like, I know you don't have a treat, so I'm not gonna do it anymore.
yeah,
So she's really smart. But in terms of like that transfer of crate training. So I'm going to assume when she leaves board and train, she still needs to be in her crate. Is so
yes. Because
okay,
puppies go through developmental stages. So like
right?
they go through chewing stages and all that stuff, and they're like losing their teeth and everything. So the main
Hmm.
thing for a crate, is my rule of thumb for puppies or for any dog, it's a year from the day that you get them that they're
Okay,
created overnight and when you're gone. Okay.
okay,
Now the overnight is a variable. If your puppy is great overnight and can hold it overnight, I don't care. But if she's having potty mistakes overnight, then we definitely need to utilize the crate until she learns to hold it. Okay.
yeah.
But like and this actually happened to a client, they had a German Shepherd puppy. I think it was approximately about 3 months old. We were doing, crate training and all that stuff. And she went out of town, and their dog walker forgot to put the puppy back in the crate.
Hmm.
And it happened on the day that they were coming back. And they came home to a dead puppy because it had chewed up a plastic lawn chair and a strip of plastic. She swallowed it. It punctured her esophagus.
Oh my
Let out.
gosh,
Yeah.
that's so
So
scary.
that's why it's important for puppies to be created that first year of their life because they
Hmm.
mature past those stages.
Hmm.
For an older dog, like if you get a 2-year-old dog, it's important because a lot of times people just let them be free and they'll destroy the house because of separation anxiety. So using the crate um, helps give them a place where they feel safe, and then also gives them a year to kind of get acclimated to the routine and the schedule of like, oh, okay, like you leave 9 to 5 and then you come back.
Hmm.
And in some cases, uh, dogs cannot be left out of kennels; they'll just destroy the place.
Yeah.
And it's just how it is. Like it's just when they're loose and free, they just are
Hmm.
destructive. So then I tell the owner like just crate them. Like why even risk the dog destroying your stuff? So
Yeah.
that's all that remains to be seen.
Hmm. Okay. Cool. Um, so okay. So do I bring the crate I have for her? I mean, it's
Yeah.
literally massive. There's a gigantic divider. So I guess my other questions is like, what's next going forward? Like, would you prefer me scheduling something now? Would you rather have me wait? I'm definitely more interested in the e-collar because I want the most um uh like effective results and like long term. That's what I would want because I want the like you said, that should be trained for life. That does grab my attention. That I'm gonna trust that if she's gonna be going to 4 week training, that this 4 weeks will last her not even 4 weeks, but 4 years, like 50 years. Well, she's not even like 50 years, but that would be
50
nice.
dog years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
50 dog years.
Yeah. that's why, you know, when we train dogs, and the reason why I solely do remote collar is just because of the consistency of it. It's the only tool that can get you as close to 100% reliability long term.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would I even bother with anything else, right? For the younger puppies, you know, we do food and stuff because they're young puppies. But you know, when I see 4-week board and train, I'm like, you're gonna get your puppy back and go like, I paid $3,000 for this. Like, what, really? Um,
Yeah.
that's why I give you your options. My suggestion would be if she's 13 weeks now, which is what, just three months in a year. I mean, not 3 months in a week. I would wait till she's about 4 months to 4.5 months.
Okay.
Because since she's a large breed puppy, they tend to mature faster. So I can train them at a 6-month mark, more at that 4.5 month mark.
Okay.
And it sounds like you have a standard puppy, and plus you want to enjoy, like, you know, while she's still little. So then, as long as there's nothing, how do you say, that needs to be taken care of. Like if you're telling me, yeah, she's destroying her crate and this and that, I'm like, okay, we need to get her in now. But if she's doing good with what you've been doing, and you can train her with treats and however what you've been doing, it's perfectly fine. You're not going to ruin your dog or anything. But I would push until she's about 4 months to 4.5 months, ideally, before starting her in the remote.
Okay. So yeah, I don't think she's destroying anything. But do you have any like recommendations? I know that like the best way to like break, or like not break, but like I want her to like when she's really hyper, like sometimes I have a hard time like getting her outside and doing something because she doesn't want to go in the snow, or she just wants to eat the snow but doesn't want to walk in the snow or do anything outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll run around in my house, which totally works, but I feel like I'm not like, I don't know, socializing her or like doing things for her, like making, I'm so like weird, but I'm like, is she even happy? Like, is she like a happy dog? Like, I don't know.
Oh, well, like
So
dogs don't think that way. Like she's not sitting there going like, man, I don't have any dog friends. You know, she's very like
that's what it
empathetic.
feels like though.
No. That's human putting their thinking
Yeah.
on the dog. So
Okay.
if you want to socialize her, my advice is you socialize her with dogs that you know, friends,
Okay.
dogs, friends with puppies. I'm not a big advocate of dog parks because one, your
Okay.
puppy is young, so you would be exposing her to potentially, you know, bacteria and viruses or whatever that she's not fully vaccinated for. But also, like, people sometimes bring dogs that shouldn't be at dog parks and are aggressive or whatever, and they have no control over them. And you know, a lot of my clients whose dogs develop aggression or reactivity had a negative experience at a dog park of a dog attacking them or whatever. Okay, so if you want to socialize her and get her dog friends, you know, you could, again, with friends dogs or anything like that. Are you in the city or in the suburb?
I am actually in Indiana. I'm like an hour. I'm like 45 minutes from the city. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna say you could also do a daycare. You would have to read into ones in your area, because driving 2 to 3 hours round trip every day for her to go to daycare is
Yeah.
not realistic. Um,
Yeah.
but if they have, like, because we have like a structured like puppy Head Start program that we have here for our puppies under 6 months, for them to like learn to socialize with other puppies and stuff like that. So there may be a facility similar, you know, if you're really trying to get her some socialization.
Okay.
Um, but but really, socialization is exposure. Taking her out, walking around, you know, taking her to Home Depot, having her see, you know, carts and cars and dogs and people and stuff. Socialization doesn't have to be like meet and greet and play. Okay, socialization can literally be her sitting across the living room with another dog. Okay, it's just coexistence.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Cool.
yeah.
So yeah, I would like to just schedule like when she's 4 weeks, or now for when she's 4 week, or is that 4 weeks? Not 14 weeks. Sorry, not 4 weeks. That would be really young. But yeah, I would like to do that if I need to do that with you or Maria. But I would really like to get a head start and go ahead and do that
Yeah.
then.
So what she'll do is she'll get in contact with you, and the
Okay.
collar that we'd have you get for her is going to be the collar that she would need as an adult. Okay. So
Okay.
it's going to look a little bulky on her as she's a young puppy. but she's gonna fill out
Okay.
just fine. Okay, because if we're
Okay.
expecting 70 plus, you're gonna want the big girl collar.
Okay.
And it just means, of course, she's going to have a lower number in the beginning, but as she matures, that number may change. And you can
Okay.
also, when you do your training, um, let's say you use 3 of them, and you feel really
Mhm.
confident with what you've learned, you can save the 2. They don't expire.
Mhm.
Okay, so that you
Okay.
come back when she's a year old, and you're like, hey Jesse, you're right. There were some changes. Can you help me find where my dog is at a year now? I go, sure. We schedule the class, and then I help you fix anything that you're having issues with.
Mhm.
Okay, so those classes, those follow-up classes, don't expire, so don't feel like you have to use
Okay.
them all at once. That's what the videos are for.
Mhm.
And if you'd like to come visit her, just to see her, make sure she's doing okay, you're welcome to come by. Just set up an appointment with us, and then we'll bring her out for you, and you can have some time with her. So this way, you're not like a full 4 weeks without seeing her if you're not
Right.
doing
Yeah.
follow-up sessions during
Yeah.
the program.
Yeah. That would be good. Yeah. Um. Okay. Great. So. Okay. Sounds good.
Any other
That's.
questions?
I don't have any. I don't have any other questions. So yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So then I'll talk to Maria. I'll have her follow up with you. She'll give you the make and model that I'm gonna have you
Mhm.
get for your puppy, and then you can schedule with her ahead of time because we only do take 4 at a time in terms of board and trains because we want to make sure we have enough time and handlers and trainers on board to work with all the dogs
Mhm.
equally. So this way you have your spot for the future. And then once we get closer to that point, if anything changes, like maybe you have to go to town and bump it a little bit earlier or whatever, we can make adjustments if needed.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. You're welcome. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to let us know. Otherwise, Maria will be in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.